All right, so first question then, guys. This one, 3 lots of 5 plus 2x equals negative 21. We have to solve it. So what do you do?
Brackets.
Okay, expand the brackets. Okay, so we end up with three lots of the 5 makes the 15, and 3 lots of the positive 2x makes the 6x equals negative 21. The next thing you do? So we subtract 15 from there. That leaves 6x here, and then I subtract 15 there, and I get negative 36. Good. Good. Then you divide by 6 on both sides, and you get x equals negative 6. So some people just got little things wrong there, forgot the negatives, didn't subtract, they added or something like that. But on the whole, not too bad. Little mistakes, I guess, that could have been sorted with maybe a little bit more just checking, double checking what you do. All right, so the next one, still level 1, 2 question. So if that first one was a level 1, this would be a level 2, although you might be thinking it's quite tricky, but it's supposed to be a level 1, 2. Anyone want to start us off? There are different ways you could do that. Go on. Jasmine.
I'm sorry. First multiply each side by 4.
And why do you want to do that?
Get rid of the fractions.
Okay, so if I multiply this one by 4, okay, I have to do the same to this side. Now, this is where there was some slight worries. So if I multiply this side by 4, that does get rid of the divide by 4. So that would be just x plus 3. What do I get on this side? No. So if I said to you, what is 1/3 multiplied by 2? What's the answer?
2 times x plus 1.
Hang on a minute. 2 times x plus 1. No, it's not that either. What about this one, guys? 1/3 is like a fraction, like that, multiplied by 2. What's the answer? Hang on. Do this one. The 1/3 multiplied by 2. What's the answer? 2/3. Okay? You multiply the top only. Why is 1/3 multiplied by 2 not 2/6? That's a bit abstract. What does this symbol mean? Of, yeah, lots of. And you can read it the other way. So I've got 2 lots of 1/3. So 2 lots of 1/3 is 2/3. But I can't do 2 lots of 1/3 and get 2/6. Why not? Why can't 2 lots of 1/3 be the same as 2/6?
When like multiplication is just faster addition, so if you do 1/3 plus 1/3, you don't add 3 plus 3 then at the top.
Yep, that's another explanation why it is 2/3. Why is it not 2/6 though? Exactly, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's equivalent. All right. So if those two are the same thing, I can't have 2 lots of something and the same thing. That wouldn't make sense. Okay. So back to over here again. So what we end up with is 4 lots of x minus 1 over 2. All right, to start with. But what happens with the 4 lots of something and then you divide that by 2, how much do you end up with? 2 lots of. So we can actually cancel and only have 2 lots of it. So we end up with x plus 3 is 2 lots of x minus 1 instead of 4 lots that's divided by 2. Does that make sense, guys? Sure, everyone? Okay, no one got any problems with that? Jelena, you good with that? Sure? Adriana, you good with that? Just saying, guys, I'm recording, so I've got proof that you've said you're good with that for next time. Is everyone good with it? Speak now. Okay, let's move on. Next stage. Yes.
Like when I was solving it, I did it where I found the common denominator
Yeah.
between both of them with 8, and then I
Oh.
multiplied both by 8.
Right, so there are different ways, definitely different ways. We could go through another way if you like, guys. But let's finish this one off first, and then we'll go through what Aidan was talking about. All right, so this is one way. I think Jasmine started us off by multiplying by 4. So we do that to both sides, and that's perfectly good because that gets rid of the divide by 4. We just then were looking at what happens to this side with the multiply by 4. And actually that gets rid of our divide by 2. All right. Already. So that was good for both sides, to be honest. All right. But what's the next stage if we're doing it this way round? Span the bracket. So we've got x plus 3 is equal to 2x minus 2. Okay. What do we do now? Oh, okay. How would you do that? Okay. So the reason, Jasmine, I was a bit like, ooh, when you said group the x's on one side, because that sounds like you're moving things around. And I don't do that. I never teach people to move things from side to side, purely because that is where people make mistakes. That's when people forget that they're supposed to add instead of subtract, and they're moving stuff. So to avoid that, I always say, right, I never move things. I never group from one side to one side. I do collect like terms on the same side, but I will always eliminate from one side and therefore do the same to the other, or I will add to both sides or multiply both sides. I will never move things or anything like that. Okay. So, Liam, do you know what you would do at this stage? Sorry? Plus 2. That gets rid of the x. Subtract 2. I want to add the 2 that gets rid of that. So that leaves me only with the x, but I've got to do it on that side as well. And that leaves me with x equals 5. Okay. All right. So what Aidan was talking about was another process. So let me just start again. So what did we have? X plus 3 divided by 4 is equal to x minus 1 divided by 2. So Aidan, what did you do?
It's fine. But so what I did was I wanted to find a common denominator, so I multiplied 4 by 2 to figure out the common denominator being 8.
Right.
The fraction on the left is 2x plus 6 over 8.
Well, I'm just going to have it as 2 lots of x plus 3, okay? But you expanded straight away, so that's fine.
Okay, yeah.
And this one will be,
Lots of x, and then 4 lots of x minus 1.
yeah,
It's, no, well, then first I multiply both sides by
okay.
2.
So now we can multiply by 8 and we end up with 2 lots of x plus 3 is equal to 4 lots of x minus 1. Yeah. And then you're basically really at the same point, aren't you? Yeah. So that's fine as well. I could say use that the same method but do something slightly different. Would anyone suggest what I might do? Just to be more efficient, maybe. Yeah, that would work, wouldn't it? That wasn't hard, was it? So instead of multiplying this one by 2 and this one by 4, I could have just multiplied this one by 2, which would have had a common denominator of 4, and this would have been 2, and then I wouldn't have needed to have done anything to this side. It would have just been still as 4, okay? And then I could have multiplied by 4 both sides. Does that make sense? So I would have then ended up with x plus 3 is equal to 2 lots of x minus 1. And if you notice, up here, look, that's what we kind of had. All right. Any questions on that? No? Okay, this video is going to be dull. All right, let's move on. Level 3 to 4. All right, it says solve the following algebraically. So what does it mean algebraically? Okay, I'm going to pick on Owen. Oh, he can't. He's not got a mic. Charlie. Elimination or substitution? Yeah, what would you substitute for what? Yeah. So we replace the y. So I've got 3 lots of whatever y is, and y is equal to 6x plus 7. Okay. And then I've still got my plus 12x, subtract 6 equals 0. What's the next step, Charlie? So what's that? Plus 12x, subtract 6. Cameron, what's the next stage? Why do you subtract 12x from the 18x? But I've got everything on one side at the moment. I've only got 0 on the other side. So all my x's, as you're putting it, are on the same side already. So actually, I just need to collect them together to start with. You add them together, don't you? What do you get, Jasmine? Where's your 16 come from? Well, I've actually collected my x's. That's good. But what about collecting my numbers, my constants? What about doing plus 21 subtract 6? What's that? Yeah. And now what do you do, Jay? Oh, no. Don't move. No, there's no moving. Say it correctly for me. No, you subtract 15 because that eliminates it, and we have 30x is equal to negative 15. And this is the bit that caught so many people out. So, because of course, if 30 and negative 15 go together, the answer must be negative 2. But that's not right, is it? Because you're not thinking about what it says. 30 x's only make negative 15. So what do we actually do mathematically? We have to divide by 30, not 3. Divide by 30. And then we have x is negative 15 divided by 30, which is not 2. It's what? Negative a half. So a few of you fell for that one, that obvious visual, especially with 15 and 30. It's a common one to trip you up on. Okay, any questions on that? Are we finished? You have to find y. Good. I've got the x. I have to find the y. So, Jelena, which equation would you use to find the y now? Well, look at them and think about it. It's quite obvious. This, the first one or the second one? Which one and why? Okay, why would you use the first? You could use either. I would use the first one as well. Why would I use the first one? Well, there is a y. This is the y. What does this equation, guys, tell me? Y. Oh, I'm not worried about gradient and intercept. Don't care. Exactly. That's the thing, isn't it? I've got x. I want to know what y is. And this tells me to find y, I have to do this with x. This one, I could put it in, but it takes some working out. This one is just, if I want to know y, I do 6 lots of whatever your x is, negative a half, and I add 7. So, what's 6 lots of a half? Or a half of 6. So that's negative 3. Negative 3 plus 7 is?
Y equals 4.
4, exactly. So I've got negative a half and 4. All right. How are you with that, Desmond? Good? Sure, no questions on it? Yeah, you'd be able to do it again? Yeah, definitely. Definitely, yeah. No questions? No? Okay, good. Just checking. Right, guys, let's have a look. Is this the next one? Or have I lost it? This is the one. Okay, 2 consecutive integers more than 20. So this one, guys, you've got to come up with your 2 equations. All right. So what did you decide? Your 2 numbers, your consecutive integers. So you've got 2 numbers. What are you going to call them? Say it again. X and Y. Okay, let's call them X and Y. Which one's the larger and which one's the smaller? Do you want?
Small and Y is large.
Okay, small and large. Okay. So let's say 2 consecutive integers. What does that mean then? All right, I've only got, we had such a big silence. We've only got 10 minutes left. All right, so how would I know what the Y number is using the X number? Well, it's consecutive. Do you remember what consecutive means? One after the other. So y is equal to x plus 1. Okay, so there's one equation. The second equation tells us that 3 times the smaller one, 3 lots of the smaller one is equal to 8 less than double the larger one. Okay, find both integers. Now it's easy, right? There's your two equations. What was the piece of information in there that didn't really figure in at the moment? Yeah, this smaller than 20 thing, that piece of information is irrelevant at the moment. It's irrelevant at the moment, right? It's something we can check at the end. So what method would you use to answer this question?
Because you already have a y is equal to x plus 1.
So I'm going to substitute it in here, and my number 2 is now going to be 3x is equal to 2 lots of x plus 1 subtract 8. Okay, so how do I do it? Adriana, what would I do next?
Add 8 to the other side.
I can. Why would you want to do that?
Would you divide by 3 to get x by itself?
I could, but at the moment I've got x's on both sides, so it's not x on its own at the moment.
I'm not really sure then.
Well, there's one glaring thing that we could get rid of.
You could expand the brackets.
Expand the brackets. Let's do that. So we've got 2x's plus 2 subtract 8. We can now simplify this, and we've got 3x's is equal to 2x minus 6, yeah? Desmond, what would you do next? Last one.
2x.
Yeah, subtract 2x. Maybe you weren't as sure on the last one. What's 3x's subtract 2x, Jasmine? Just an x, yeah? And on this side, we get left with negative 6. All right. So what's the next number? What's y?
Y is -5.
-5, isn't it? Because y is the next number up. It's the larger number, so we could just do the next one. Or we've got y is x plus 1, so -6 plus 1 would be -5. But there are two numbers that we've got, and we just check and we say it's smaller than 20. Yeah? So those are your answers. Questions? No? All good with that? All right. The tricky one is to start off with. Jack, did you have a chance to rethink about this one? What would you do this time? Can we set up some equations rather than think about it logically?
Setting up equations last time.
Didn't work, no? Who should I get? Some people have got this one. Charlie, I think you got this one, didn't you? What did you do? What were your equations? Some I had to look up, guys. Do you know what a nickel is worth? That's 5 cents, yeah. And a dime? 10 cents. And a quarter? 25 cents. Okay. What is the N going to stand for if I use an N? N is equal to the number of nickels. D is the number of dimes. Q is the number of quarters. So what do I know? Well, I know that I've got $3 worth. So I can say that N lots of 5 plus 10 lots of D plus 25 lots of Q has to equal what? 300, not 3. Okay, next thing we could say, the number of dimes is double the number of nickels. So dimes is equal to 2 lots of n. Okay with that, guys? Yeah. And then we've got the number of quarters is 1/3 the number of nickels. So we can do the number of quarters is 1/3 the number of, what did I say, nickels? Yeah. Yeah? All right, what do we do then? Well, what we got, go on.
Sorry. You
Okay.
substitute the numbers in?
Yes, you do. Because we've got everything in terms of n if we want. So I've got 5n plus 10 lots of d. So that's 2n plus 25 lots of 1/3 of n has to equal 300. Yeah, so what do I get? 5n's plus 20n's plus 25 over 3n's has to equal 300. So this one here, that's the bit that makes it slightly more difficult. So what do you have to do first? I would times by 3, yeah. Everything multiplied by 3. So I would get 15n's, 60n's. That's now only 25n's. And this would be 100.
900.
And now I collect all that together. And what do I end up with? 100n's is equal to 900, which makes n what? 9. Now we're sorted, because if n is 9, d is 2 lots of 9, and q is 1/3 of 9. So 9, 18, and 3. So that's the number of nickels, that's the number of dimes, and that's the number of quarters. Okay? Make sense? Can see why it's a trickier question now, because you start off going, oh, but I've got 3 things, not just 2. But that's fine, you know. The trick was to write down the other piece of information and then go, oh, look, I can make everything an n. Everything an n. And that's what we try and do. We get rid of everything other than what we want. What method did we use, Jasmine? What did you say it was? Well, you said it was substitution. All right, so I've got less than a minute. So this question, you could tell that was one of the ones we did in class because pretty much everyone got it right. If you didn't get it right and you want to know, let me know. Other than